did Giannis prove?
What he proved to me is that he's an opener. He's a tone setter, not a closer. He still needed Khris Middleton to get it done. The Nets did make a push. They weren't great. They did not have the game, obviously, they had in Game 5 where they were just a much different team. Steve Nash admitted that maybe they emptied the tank a little too much in that game. Game 5 had to, and that's fine. Kevin Durant still had a strong game, and there were moments in that second half where you were waiting to see, is this thing going to teeter? Is it going to pull away from the Bucks? So once again, Khris Middleton was the guy making the big shots. Khris Middleton was the one that made sure there would be no comeback on this night. He's your closer. Giannis is not a closer. Doesn't mean he's not a great player. Doesn't mean he's not a great talent. But he's an opener. That's what we're learning about him now. And does that make him more of a 1B than a 1A? Because the 1A is the guy with the ball in his hands late in the game, making sure the other team doesn't get the win on your home field.
I don't think you take Khris Middleton and make him the 1A of that team. That team is Giannis' team. Giannis started out at bully ball and finished with bully ball. 30.17 boards. He may have not taken the shots down the line at the end of the game, those sort of things, but he certainly got everything going. He played his style of ball. Whenever he plays his style of ball and not sitting back shooting threes, this is what you get out of him. You get a team that, much like he said, he can get everybody else involved. But when he's settling on jump shots as a big, there's no way he's going to advance his team to a championship, period. That's why I like what he did. I went away from here yesterday, but better yet, on the show yesterday, then went away from it thinking, the way they win this game is for him to take advantage of the paint. And we clearly saw that. He got 17 boards. It was a typical sort of kind of Giannis game, but it was something different. He answered the call. He was criticized heavily after Game 5, not guarding KD in the end. Now, he didn't guard KD much. He switched off on him a lot in Game 6, but the fact that he was even involved and active in scoring points at the level that he did allowed people like Middleton to do what he did in the end.
Like, come on, Middleton was the one who made the bigger shots. He's the one who plays better at home.
But it doesn't happen.
What Khris Middleton has to do is have a big Game 7 on the road, which he has not played well on the road.
It doesn't happen. It starts with Giannis. If Giannis
goes away,
I
said that. It starts with Giannis,
but
it doesn't
that's why we
end with
gave him the
Giannis.
Supermax deal, to start with him, and if we need somebody else to close, so be it.
Yeah, Dave Winfield was Mr. May, not Mr. October. Reggie Jackson was Mr. October. That's the difference, Perk.
Well, this is how I look at it, okay? One thing about Giannis is that I'm going to give him his props first, all right? He did a great job of attacking the basket, okay? Because every time he shoot a jump and he make one, it was the first time that I saw the opposing bench actually clapping and cheering for him. You know why? Because they wanted him to take more jumpers. And he didn't settle last night. He imposed his will. He got out in transition. He embraced the role of actually being a roll diver, actually attacking in transition. Great job by Budenholzer, spacing the floor, moving Giannis to the center position. But I will say this, what Giannis proved to me last night is that he's a certified Robin. And that's okay, because Khris Middleton is the Batman of that team. And he showed us that last night with the epic performance that he put on last night in a must-win situation. When it mattered the most, Khris Middleton was the one carrying the throne when Brooklyn was making that run, when they cut it into 2. The ball was in Khris Middleton's hands. So what Giannis showed me last night is that, hey, I could do this long as I don't have to be the guy, the go-to guy when it matters the most. I'm good first, second, and third quarter, but when it comes in the fourth, when it's time for the guys, when it's time for the buckets to get delivered, I don't want the ball. Give it to Khris Middleton and let him do him.
But is something wrong with that, though, Perk? Is something wrong with understanding my role when it comes to nut crunch time? Much like you said, what's your big saying? What's the big saying that you say? You are who you are, and he is who he is. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all.
Yeah. No, and Keith, look, check this out. Don't get so hostile, my brother. All I'm saying is, there's nothing wrong with it. Listen, there's nothing wrong with it at all, okay? But at the end of the day, the question was, what did he prove to us last night? And all I said is that he proved that he's a certified Robin. It's nothing wrong with being Robin, because you obviously could have been other characters in the Batman movie, but you Robin. So that means you was the co-star. There's nothing wrong with it.
He's just the joker right now.
No,
because
I'm glad he
Perk told me
answered
I won the
call,
argument.
though.
That's all that matters.
I'm glad he answered the call from all the criticism. Now Game 7 comes up. They move from Milwaukee to Brooklyn. Can he answer the call again? Because after Game 5, as you know, Perk, people wanted his head.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, dude, we gave you all this money. You're the 2-time MVP, reigning defensive player, and you're not living up to the bill, but he did in Game 6.
Well, I'm going to say this. He answered the call offensively. I'm still waiting on the former defensive player of the year in him to answer the call because he tried to trick us and tried to pick up James Harden last night with a pulled hamstring, and James Harden started torching him. So, look, I'm still waiting on that. I'm still waiting on the defensive player of the year, first team all defense. I want to see that. I want to see Giannis sit down and guard somebody. I want to see Giannis actually have an impact on the defensive end. He has not shown that all series long. That's what I need to see out of Giannis.
That's how I feel. If you're not guarding him, like let's say Game 7, we're Saturday night, we're in the fourth quarter, we're in a tight game, right? And let's hope we are, because that'd be a lot of fun to see. And if that's going on and it's KD, you're Giannis, if you're not like waving off everybody else, I got this. I've got this guy now. These are the possessions that matter. If you're not doing that, then you should take those trophies off your shelf and give them back. Because that's how you earn those trophies. Yes, I know it's voted in the regular season, but that's what the whole league. Players are watching this saying the same damn thing. You know it, Perk. Players are watching those games wondering, why is Giannis guarding Landry Shamet? You need to be guarding Kevin Durant so your team can win a Game 7 and move on in the postseason.
I don't know about that one, man.
All right.
I got to have him on both ends of the floor. If I try to put him predominantly on KD, I lose that offensive energy that we need because Khris Middleton can't win the game and score all the points by himself. I understand he had a great game at home, but when Khris Middleton goes on the road, things change for him a little bit. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful thinking that Khris Middleton can continue to be Batman in these situations.